Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Friend Code. I'm your host, Michael Damiani. This week, I'm joined by Daniel Budworth. How's it going?
Yo.
It's been a while since we've been back in the studio for Friend Code. I believe the first episode back after we had to record at home for that year was E3. But back in the studio again, and it's a little weird trying to set everything up because for E3, obviously Isla was there doing all the setup for me. So this is the first time I even tried to do it. I'm like trying to remember, how do I flip on the switch? Oh yeah, I got to do this. And it's like just so weird. And it's funny.
And then things just break for no good reason all of a sudden.
Yeah. And it's just like in a few months, that's gonna be the new normal. Because I think we tried to use Zoom for something a week or so ago, and I was like, oh yeah, that's how you do it on Zoom. It's like it's so weird when you go back and forth. But yeah, I haven't had you on Friend Code in a while, and I know we were on Twitter. This is how it came about. We're gonna talk about some VHS video game promo tapes in just a little bit, but we were having we got tagged in a Twitter conversation about I think that's how it started because you replied, someone asked about if you'd seen these VHS promo tapes as a kid or anything, what do you think about them? And then someone tagged us and you talked about the one you had. I'm like, dude, I remember these. I love talking about this stuff. I think either my parents got rid of them or if they're still at my parents' house, they're still there. I had a bunch of these growing up.
Yeah,
and
I'm pretty sure there's probably still a few at my mom's house.
It was such a delight to get them. But before we get to that, Bloodworth, this is a little bit of old news, but I still think it's a relevant topic overall. Trailers, video game trailers. I mean, it could be any kind of trailer, but video game trailers specifically, do they show too much? Are they too spoilery? This was kind of kickstarted off by the more recent Metroid Dread trailer 2. Mm-hmm. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know what people are talking about. I'm scared to watch it now because all the social media out there was like, wow, Nintendo really wants this game to sell well because they just showed everything. And I'm like, what's that big of a spoiler in a Metroid game? People are like, no, it's a big spoiler. I'm like, oh my gosh, what could this be?
I think I know what they're probably referring to in there. Yeah, I mean, it's hard until you play the game, right? It's like if you've played the game, if you watch the trailers, and then you feel like, oh, well, I saw all of it, then yeah, the trailers spoiled everything. Until then, it's kind of hard because you don't know what the scope of things are. Like this could just be scratching the surface of things.
So true.
And that happens a lot, right? Like I remember when God of War, when we did our review and people were talking about, oh, you're spoiling so much, blah, blah, blah. I was like, man, you did not see nothing of that game.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of times like that where it's like just after a certain point in the game, they're just, it's just completely blackout. So yeah, I don't know. I have feelings that maybe they've shown too much in this. They're definitely venturing into some things that haven't been in the series for a while. They're venturing into some things that we've kind of never seen in a Metroid game, for the first time. And how does it all play together and work? I'm not entirely sure, but yeah.
Perspective is an important thing with these. I mean, because what you're just talking about, but also I think also proximity to a release of something.
Right.
You tend to not. You've seen enough. You feel like the company's done a good job. But this patron question about what I want to talk about next real quick about it comes from our patron JG. Actually wants to know, in regards to whether trailers show too much of the game nowadays, I actually decided not to watch the new Metroid trailer, so I'm with you. Nonetheless, I still think that game trailers do a way better job than movie trailers with showing what the actual product looks like. Sometimes they can have some spoilers, but any movie trailers just straight up lie or set the wrong tone. I can't tell you how many times I've hated a movie trailer and then loved the same movie after I actually saw it. This has never happened to me with a game. So what are your thoughts on that? So do you kind of agree with that sentiment based on movie trailers and game trailers you've seen? Do you have a slightly different perspective maybe?
Well, I do think it's fun and it's interesting how, some things, the movie trailers will just be from the cutting room floor or there'll be things that they shot specifically for a trailer. And it's like, all right, we need this hero shot. There's not really a point in the movie where it makes sense, so let's just shoot one. So
yeah,
I think that's interesting. I don't feel like it's misleading. It's trying to capture the vibe of what the movie is. But I think it's curious what they're saying about sometimes they just get the vibe wrong, and I wonder if that's just a matter of just how all of that stuff is set up, and just the kind of back and forth, and the
Yeah.
the way things are done in film is, you just have houses where people make trailers, and they get a separate director to say, all right, put a rock song under that, or they'll tell you exactly what song to use, and you just go from there.
Exactly. I feel like movies have been around a much longer, and the marketing machine for them, I think, works in while there are definitely similarities, I think it works in a slightly different way, because also, most importantly, movies are a very passive medium compared to video games. So I think that their job first and foremost is we need to sell tickets, just like they need to sell games. But I think they've gotten so good at it. The marketing people, they're like, this is what we know will sell. Focus research shows us this. The demographics show us this. The trailer needs to have this vibe, because get them in the seats. So even if they don't like it, we still sold a ticket and stuff. They don't care about that. Where I think with a video game, you can't just show the story for most of the games. You can't just show a cool looking trailer anymore. It's well, you're well, what does it play like? There's more questions that you have to answer. So I think by its nature, video game trailers, they get a little bit more into the gameplay. They show a little bit more of the mechanics and stuff. That's why I think they're a little bit more honest for the most part. Obviously, in the past there have been accusations about, oh, this is from a different build, or they made this look better, and that's the whole weird thing.
And similar to the cutting room floor thing with films, you get game trailers where they're still figuring out what the game is, right?
Exactly.
BioShock Infinite, perfect example of they had stuff and they had ideas, and they decided we've got enough here that it's going to look good enough to do a trailer, and we can start hyping people up for it. And they're like, well, throw that out. We're not going to do that. So it's just, you have to keep the context of how much time is in between a trailer and then when the final game comes out, because you still need to allow the team creative freedom to say, hey, you know what? This idea, sure, it looked really cool, but in practice, it just wasn't working.
Yeah, it seems like a cool job. I also don't envy it, because it seems like there's so much riding on your shoulders. Real quick, from Level Capybara, they want to also know about, has a spoilery moment in a trailer ever deflated your excitement for an upcoming video game? And if not, that's good. You can't recall one, but I don't know.
I'm always bad with point blank questions to begin with. So, it's hard to say. I think that I definitely feel like I've had those moments where oh, maybe you're showing too much or whatever. But
I don't know about deflating my hype so much as I wish I hadn't seen it, but I'm still excited for the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the context still matters most of the time.
And while I got you here, Miguel wanted me to pin you down, because apparently they haven't heard you talk about this yet, Blood. Since you're on, can you ask Blood what your current hype level is regarding Dread? So how are you feeling about Metroid Dread?
Optimistic but guarded.
Oh.
I feel like there's something about the look of the game that just doesn't click with me. It doesn't feel like a high budget Nintendo game. I know a lot of people think it looks really good, and I'm like, just visually it isn't grabbing me.
Our commenters have let us know that they're not happy whenever we suggest it doesn't look good. They think we're crazy. I think I might even suggested it might have been a 3DS game at one point, and they got very angry at me.
I think that was probably me, but yeah.
They got very angry at that.
Yeah, so there's that. And then Mercury Steam, they have done quite a few of these style games between Castlevania and Metroid. I don't know how well they can make that formula feel like it's moving forward. And it's difficult because Return of Samus, or Samus Returns, is not a good place to judge that from, because they were remaking a game that was already very linear.
Yeah.
And trying to fit more elements into it and more exploration into it. And so to then go from that to something that is all new, has complete freedom to do whatever they want, and it's also based on this idea from the internal teams from back in the day. And so how is all this stuff going to mesh together? And am I really going to enjoy the sense of being hunted again, which was in Fusion and is some degree in Metroid Prime 3. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen some things in those trailers that it looks cool and is interesting. I'm very excited that the story is moving forward, but then Other
That's a
M
good
makes
point.
me wonder
Yeah.
how much more do we want to go behind the veil of this story? I don't know. I hope and the other thing that makes me guarded is that it's been just such a burgeoning genre in the last 5-6 years that, like, is Metroid going to be the best Metroidvania of the year even? Like, I have my doubts whether or not they can pull it off.
Yeah, these are some valid questions and concerns here. I definitely share some of those for sure. So, yeah, I think the hunting thing in particular, when you mentioned that, like, it's been in my face the whole time, but like, I generally like hope. There are definitely games I've loved that have had those types of segments, but like they're segments. It's not like the majority of the game. And obviously, this game's gonna probably let you have moments where you're not being hunted all the time.
Well, yeah, it's clear from even how they first presented it. It's not an ongoing constant thing. It's in certain areas, but yeah, how well will that actually work? Will that feel too repetitive? And
like when you figure out like the secret behind it, it's like, oh, now it's not even a threat anymore. Like now it's just like annoying or tedious, or this is just procedural. Like you don't want to lose that kind of like intense feeling, the tension there, and can even maintain it. It seems like a little, yeah. It's interesting that they went with that, but I mean, I did enjoy Samus Returns, but as you said, it already had a blueprint. It wasn't being such a risk taker compared to a brand new entry. I mean, it's being touted as like almost like is it? I forget if it's actually being called the conclusion or like it's like
they talk like it's which is funny because they've done this twice before. This is the last one.
So. It's like we've heard this song and dance before, so yeah, I think it's fair, but just a month away, and we'll be able to know how it holds up for sure. But I have some fond memories of being a kid and watching some Nintendo VHS promos. I didn't realize there was as many. I've always known there were a lot more than I ever got as a kid. Mm-hmm. But for me, and I think a lot of people, I feel this is safe to say, I think a lot of people got the Donkey Kong Country promo VHS tape. I feel like everyone I knew as a kid got that. And as I got older, got online, started talking to more people, and even to today, just like looking into doing research for this, seems like that was like the most prevalent one. I remember getting that, like seeing it on the counter with the mail, and my mom saying it was for me, putting it in there, watching it, like, whoa, this is really cool. But just learning how many more there were over time, and then even now when we went back to look, it's like, wow, I didn't even know two of these even existed. I was like, wait, what are these ones? So Blood and I did a little bit of a deep dive when we went through and watched almost all of these. And
I watched all the ones that were on that YouTube channel that you showed me.
So there, I went to a wiki. The playlist we watched had 10 of them. The only two that weren't on there were two Pokemon ones.
Oh, okay.
One of them was strictly for the world of like all Pokemon. And it was like most of it was about the anime because of the show. It would just come out and it had a teaser at the end for the game stuff. And it's like, wait, what? And then the other one was for Hey You Pikachu. And it's like a 2.5 minute of like of this kid just like saying how cool it is to talk to Pikachu and stuff. And it's like, okay, like I guess that wasn't a big, I can see why that wasn't sent to a lot of people. But the 10 that we got to watch, I feel like I had watched at some point either online or tracked down on eBay and bought some of these later to watch on my own. It's very interesting to see the fluctuation between the styles they went for in some of these. And, we've been talking about this Donkey Kong Country one. It's called Donkey Kong Country Exposed. I feel like we should start there. Mm-hmm. Blood, did you have this as a kid, or did you get this at any point on your own? And then, what did you think about this video? And did you like it?
Yeah, no, I liked it a lot. It was a huge source of hype for me. I think it was maybe the first time that I had any sort of like video about games come through other than like some random things that might have been on TV or whatever. I probably got about half of these overall, like 4 or 5 of them I think that I had back in the day. And this was the first one, and this one in particular, like looking back on all these, I think this does like a really good job of feeling kind of raw and behind the scenes, and like you meet people that work at Nintendo. Like Dan Osen is in here talking about Metroid Dread. He was on the Treehouse Live, you know. First time you've ever heard the word treehouse, probably outside of Nintendo Power, you know, in this as well. They did do some gimmicky things like having, you know, bananas all over the place, and the host was, you know, at times acting like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here or be here or be in this area, that area.
Like, come on now.
But, you know, you talk to Ken Lobb, and like every one of these names like stuck in my head, like Tony Harmon and
I wish
Henry Sturchy and Armand Williams. Like, yeah, these guys were like, they were Nintendo developers to me, and at a time where we just didn't see that stuff.
Exactly. I was shocked. No, I'm shocked now by how in-depth of a behind-the-scenes look they actually gave you in this video.
Right.
Like, going, like, you told everyone about how, like, you can't get past the desk at Nintendo and stuff, and it's like, no, we're going in back. You say seeing Treehouse, let alone hearing about it, like, getting to, like, meet the people behind, like, the games and the play testers there and stuff like that. And then, like, I also appreciated you said it had some, like, cheesy skit parts like that. They were trying to, like, lighten the mood. How much they were like lifting the veil behind not just like the game, like giving you an overview, but like the technology behind it, like all aspects of it. Like, it wasn't a super deep dive, but like for a promo video, it was kind of unique. I feel like to do
I don't
something
think I'd
like
ever
that.
heard the word parallax before
Exactly.
this video. And they actually show like the prototype cartridge with like all the
exactly.
the
I was
RAM
like,
chips and stuff on it.
that's like the stuff that people love to see, like, you know, especially all the work we've done and stuff. And, you know, that stuff floats out there eventually, and people are like, oh, that's like a prototype test cartridge. That was a beta cartridge. You know, that's a dev unit and stuff. It's like, no, they're just straight up showing you that. Like, and for a lot of people, like, they had no idea what that, like, the older stuff is usually harder to, you know, like, see in, like, in such good condition, because that was like what they were actually working with in its prime. I really, really like, so I got some notes here real quick. Like, we already talked about the comedy bits. Like, a lot of gameplay. I mean, Nintendo, like this, a lot of this stuff, I'm going to say, eventually the VHS tapes, I think, led towards like a style I feel like kind of gets closer to like what Nintendo has evolved into now. But man, like these kind of like extended dev walkthroughs where there'd be segments like, here's some tips and tricks, here's like overview of levels, here are like mechanic overviews. It was really, really nice to see that. I like how they got Tim Stamper on the phone from Rare talking about like, yeah, they went to like the zoo. Oh, you went to the zoo. And like the guy was like, and like talking about like ACM and the Silicon Graphics guy. Like,
they had him in there.
Really
Who shows up in the next videos for a little bit too.
Exactly. But I gotta say, like, Ken Lobb is in a lot of these videos, and man, I have to say, after rewatching these, I really wish there was a way for Ken Lobb to come back to Nintendo, because
he's right across the street.
The dude is such like a good personality in these videos. The set, because you love music and video game music, and that whole sequence on the CD about Ken Lobb's basically like, hey, like, we've been doing a lot of work with the music. We think it sounds pretty good, and it's been a thing in Japan for a while where they sell video game soundtracks, but that really wasn't a thing in the West at all. And he says this is a big deal because we're going to put this out on CD for people to go buy. I was like, I mean, that actually got me to go buy it from the catalog.
Yeah.
Because Ken Lobb told me how cool it was as a kid. But watching it now again, it's like, this was a big deal, actually. I didn't realize at the time, like, this is like a big first step for Nintendo outside of Japan with soundtracks. I don't know if you like felt the same, or you felt this was
that's
intriguing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I was recording some things on like cassette tape before then. But yeah, that Donkey Kong Country CD was probably the first video game soundtrack I purchased.
Yeah, it was.
They had the wireframes in there. They talked about how that worked, and they went through all the different types of shading that it goes through before it becomes, you know, fully rendered.
It was
to what
exciting.
they compressed.
I think it made me interested in game development as well. I mean, that's obviously not the career path I chose, but for a while there, I was kind of like, I'm going to go work at Nintendo and make video games, because these cool behind the scenes.
I had notebooks where I was like drawing wireframes because I had no idea how any of this worked. So I was like, oh yeah, if you know how to draw it, then you can think in 3D.
Yep, that's how it works. One thing I want to say, and this is kind of prevalent in the other videos too, to some extent, from my perspective as a kid, this video and the other ones definitely glamorized Q&A jobs.
Oh yeah. This guy just plays video games all
like
day.
maybe NOA treated them very well back then. I have no idea. I haven't heard any stories from like the 90s era of Nintendo, but Q&A is historically not treated very well in the video game industry. And so one thing I was kind of wrestling with when I was watching these is the question of like, this is aimed at like a younger, like teens and younger audience, obviously. And it's making it seem cool to play video games for a living, getting paid. And like, obviously back then it was a different context. Like, yeah, who the heck gets paid to play video games? That's pretty awesome. But at the same time, like kind of ingratiating that mindset to like, I wonder if that kind of mentality in the 90s led to like a generation of kids who were into gaming growing up, like aspiring to be game testers, helped fuel them being exploited later on, like as they got older into 2000, like, you know, in the last 20 years, because they were just like, this is the coolest thing ever. And like, it's part of like, this is the dues you got to pay to be in video game industry. And now it's like, as people of like, you know, times have changed, people are like, no, you're just treating us like trash now. Like, this is, I love games, but like, I'm not going to kill myself to do this stuff. I don't know if that even came across your mind at all when watching these, or if you felt the same way that like the people who worked at Nintendo were like the coolest people ever, or like they seemed like that was an awesome job.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't get the sense that like they led to any of the stuff later, because I just think that's just inherent, right? Like people just have that idea, like, oh, you just play video games all day, it'll be, you know, fun and easy or whatever, and that's, you know, why you can churn through people so quickly in a lot of those companies. But I do think that, you know, something that we kind of see through these videos, and I'm not sure how many of those people are still there today, but Dan Osen was still there. Ken Lobb just moved across the street to Microsoft when they got Rare. I don't know how much of that was tied to that with, you know, his relationship, but it's interesting that he eventually kept working on Killer Instinct from an internal perspective and that kind of thing. And you know, even through these videos, you see, you know, when they do bring people back, like Henry and Armand and like a lot of those same guys over there for a couple of years. So they weren't just tearing through people at like a breakneck pace or anything.
Yeah, I that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I don't suspect Nintendo was like there was anything wrong at that point with that. They actually were, you know, from a perspective of a young person watching at the time, they just seemed like the coolest people. In fact, like through the years, as like Nintendo got an online presence, like they got like their NOA handles, and like that was like the coolest thing ever. You saw someone with like an NOA underscore in their name. You're like, whoa, you're like, dude, you're like the coolest person ever, man. Like, love that stuff. And you didn't mention Killer Instinct. Loved how it ended on like a teaser where it's like, hey, let's go check out this room. And then like the nice little zoom in they allowed them. It's like next year, and even like show you the title and stuff. It's like, I was almost like wondering, like, I wish E3 would do something like that where it's like planned. It's like they show you like a really short title and a gameplay clip, and you're like, oh no, like, you know, like next year or something, like God of War, like a PlayStation showcase.
But that's what I mean, like the raw kind of behind the scenes, like, you know, it was the Nintendo's old building, and just felt like just a very normal, typical office building. You know, there's the cafeteria, there's a break room, there's, you know, there's just some desk in the corner. It all felt authentic in that sense, even when they were playing it up for camera. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, I appreciate that, and that it still exists. And as we see in these next few videos, you know, they further expanded into looking behind the scenes. This next one on the playlist was called The Invasion of Nintendo. Yeah. It technically was the third one to come out in the release order, apparently, but like it's the second one in this playlist. We'll just go with this one.
Well, what was
Yoshi? The Yoshi's Island was actually second. So, but this one kind of the same style a little bit, I think.
Well. Not exactly. But
sorry, I'm getting it flipped up. Sorry. This one I'd never seen before, and this one with a different style. Though a theme they came back to once or twice with this whole spy infiltrating Nintendo. Like, this was like the Attitude Era of Nintendo. Like, you know, at the end of the Donkey Kong video, like, you're not going to find it on Sega. You're like, there's like, love them taking digs at each other. So the real quick, the setup for this is like, it's a spy mission to infiltrate NOA. It looked like 1984 vibes meets The Matrix. This is it gave some like behind the scenes looks at some games. But like it was this thing where they kept going to different staff members and trying to get them like, so tell us everything you know. It was like so
tickling
weird.
Feet and like got briefcases full of money and just like anything, you know, make them talk kind of.
And the music. there's like a licensed music thing at the end because like as soon as Bush came on, I'm like, wait,
Bush is in there, No Doubt is in there.
I was like, wait a second, wait, what? What is going on here? I was like, how did they get permission to use this? Oh, it might be a promo video. They did it like back in the day, it was different, but no, at the end they have courtesy of. I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool.
I'm curious how much of that was local.
It seemed like a lot of that
Seattle, right when Seattle was blowing up.
I have a feeling, yeah. This one, I will say, it was like a weirder vibe.
Oh,
it's definitely more a product of its time than even the Donkey Kong video. Like, I don't think this one has aged as well. Although it was interesting because this one went through a multitude of games. We got to see a little bit, as I said, like Yoshi's Island. They gave some tips for that. The Ken Lob mom gag.
Yeah.
That one, like, there was one part that got me to chuckle at the end. What was it? I forget where it was. There was a line or something that made me laugh, but they also had something about they had a Super Mario RPG tease at the end, which I was like, dude, they're teaching Super Mario RPG in this? This must have been so awesome. Why didn't I get this video as a kid? And I love their line. They said,
You know Square developed it. Oh, they're the best. They did Final Fantasy, so you know Mario RPG isn't going to suck.
okay.
Yeah. This one I totally had, but I'd forgotten all about. But yeah, it definitely leaned in more on like production bits. Like you're saying, they had, the kind of the briefing room where like the evil mastermind is like teleprompting in or whatever. And I think that might be the same host as the last video, but he's just shaved his hair, and he's put on a different voice. He's kind of through a few of these.
Yeah, I think he might have been staff for Nintendo Power because Nintendo Power produced these videos for them.
Could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had a lot of the music. They had the goons going around doing this. Oh, they had the janitors in between.
Oh yeah.
So you had the two janitors in the break room, the old guys, and then you had the old ladies as well. They were still calling the Ultra 64 the NU64.
When I heard that, I was like, wait, did he mispronounce it? I was like, no, he's saying Nintendo. Oh, even though the system glamour shot later showed Nintendo 64, like it looked like they actually changed
because that's the Japanese. Yeah. We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
But yeah, so Henry Sturcey showing Yoshi's Island and tips. This was the thing.
Yeah, they
were still very into like tips and secrets, and this is how you do things.
The Ken Lob part. I don't know what your notes say this. I wanted to give shout outs to.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think for a promo video, the lingo might trip up a lot of people, like an average person. I was shocked at the high level breakdown of like fighting game mechanics that Ken Lob was doing. Yeah. It was almost like commentary at a fighting game tournament. And like this is like in the early 90s from Nintendo of all places. And I was like, man, that was the moment I was like, please get Ken Lob back. I was like, this guy is amazing. This guy is great. I was like,
yeah, because he was just talking about, it's like, well, you know that auto double's, starting up and it's only going to go into a high or a mid or I forget exactly what he said. But it was very technical breakdown. He's talking about essentially like looking for frames. He's talking about how you can do combos that don't use auto double so you can throw people off. And I ate it all up, like that's I remember at one point when I was in a newspaper and my editor was like, they keep asking for like codes and stuff and strategies, and I'm like, okay, so like I wrote up like a thing on how to get 60 hit combos in Killer Instinct Gold,
Nice blood, yeah.
But and that game in particular was just sort of in that zone where like, yeah, a lot of there's like auto comboing and things like that, but combos were a very big part of it, and combo breakers were a very big part of it. And so it was sort of moving forward, even though the rest of the fighting game community went a different direction. It was starting to get people thinking in more technical terms of how to play a fighting game, and particularly home players, because I think that stuff was starting more in the arcades.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But when people playing at home, like, oh, okay, so I can do this and this and string things together rather than just doing my fireballs.
It's very true, because a lot of the fighting game veterans will tell you from that era that like it was the arcade scene. If you want to learn how to play these games and get good, learn the lingo, you needed to be there. But like the home console version, like there's no online yet, so it's like you maybe played with your few friends, but like you weren't getting that exposure, that kind of community, the community get together setting where a bunch of minds could congregate and bestow the knowledge and like do the lab stuff and that we're more used to now through online training and like going to events that wasn't as big back then. So it was like, I think it's almost like I lament Nintendo not doing as much of that, but I also understand it was a different time and like they were also trying.
Well, there just weren't a lot of games where you would need that kind of knowledge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also this is like an era where Nintendo was like they were trying their best to seem cool and some of this stuff.
Oh, you want to seem
trying a little too hard.
Here we go. End of Mario RPG. Oh, they also had DKC 2 in there. Well, we don't have a lot to say
yeah,
about
it
it.
is.
End of the Mario RPG section, which was with the 2 old women janitors. I'm thinking of getting a tattoo of Luigi on my left butt cheek.
I was like, okay, blood. That was cringe. There's definitely a lot of cringe in some of these videos. I know I want to get to it now because I was blown away because I didn't know about this video. I was blown away when they showed off the Shoshinkai 95 footage because that's rare. That's rare as that's unheard of. And to be buried in a promo video, like that's great historical archive footage right there. And I was like, my eyes just lit up. I was like, this is excellent. Then this cringeworthy VO comes over about this.
They were just goofing.
I was like, they're trying
to
to goof, but like they say some pretty trashy things. I was like, all right, this needs to go. And then like they even got like Howard Lincoln, like because they were going to track down all these bigwigs.
Gunpei Yokoi is in there for a second.
I was like, there's all these bigwigs, and what are you doing at this VO? Please cease this right now. You're ruining it. So just needs to make a cut where they take out the VO basically, and it's like. But other than that, like just seeing the lines, seeing all the stations, and it just like how that convention center looked in 1995. It's like 1995 Japan. It's like, this is awesome.
Yeah, because they were playing again. They were still going with the secret Asian angle. So like they're looking for the tape. Have you seen the tape? I've got to find the tape. Where's the tape? And so they talked to that Silicon Graphics guy from the last video. He was in there, and then what was really funny to me when they finally showed the tape. It was like the N64 on a pedestal, and then a bunch of screenshots you'd already seen from Nintendo Power.
The Nintendo Power screen.
That was all
I was like getting so excited for like, are we gonna see real gameplay footage? I was like, dude, this is gonna be good quality. It's like, oh, it's a screen.
Angling them over and over, and this one's zooming in a little bit.
I was like, the limitations. They're got a little too greedy there. But yeah, I think it was worthwhile to see some of that like archival footage. But as we said, like these promo videos were definitely going for themes to like carry, like skits.
Right.
This is why we'll get to it a little bit later. I feel like some of this stuff, like one of these videos, I'll say, see which one you thought I was the one I'm gonna say, felt like almost like an easy update episode. But I could see the genesis of like directs and some of like like I feel like somewhere when they were making the decision to go to like or ditching live press conferences, someone's like, hey, like they were looking at all their stuff, someone had to have mentioned their VHS tapes, like not as cheesy as this, but like, hey, they worked back then, like maybe we just modernize them for a new time and a new audience, like this is what directs should be, and like no one else is doing them. I know Nintendo was the only one doing VHS tapes, but they seem to be the one putting out the most of these back at this time period, especially in in the U.S. at least. So it's interesting to see, I feel. Yeah. A Journey Through Yoshi's Island is the next one. Second chronologically released.
This one I did not know about.
This one I did not know about either whatsoever. This is one of the other ones I didn't know about.
Apparently it was sold in stores.
Yeah,
So they didn't get mailed out to people.
So there's some interesting ones we'll talk about later. Some of these were even exclusive to certain, like one was exclusive to Blockbuster to rent at Blockbuster. One was a Toys R Us exclusive. So they did.
We'll get it.
Yeah. But there's some interesting things here, Bloodworth. I noticed about Yoshi's Island, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. They said it was 4 years in the making. So thinking about like an old, like people like to.
Wait, no, I think they said that because Mario World had come out in 91.
Oh, so they weren't talking about development time? Okay.
I don't think they were actually talking
because I was going to say,
time.
wow, that even from back then,
I think that's just
a long time.
Marketing speak. Yeah.
The pronunciation of they said Kamek.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what? What'd you say? Kamek? Is that how you say it? I was like, apparently 90s Nintendo of America, that is how you pronounce it, Kamek. I like that we got a lot more behind-the-scenes looks at Nintendo headquarters.
Yeah, we got some arcade. They had a little arcade in the office there at that point.
Yeah, that was very cool. Ken Lobb again with the technical breakdown of the backgrounds.
Morphmation.
I love that. I was almost hoping he was going to do an explanation of the 3D that's not 3D, because I don't know if you saw that came out recently, that the 3D objects in Yoshi's Island are not actually 3D models. It's some crazy thing going on that's really technical. That's really that someone like the video that tried to explain it, even it doing its best, it's still a little confusing. So,
but they're not polygons.
Apparently,
they sure look like polygons.
Apparently, they're not.
And it used the FX chip.
Apparently, they aren't.
Huh?
Or at least some of the effects aren't like those aren't actually 3D models whatsoever. But I was really excited when they got into the technical breakdown of this stuff, because actually, is morphation a real term, or is that just something they made up? Okay,
dude,
just double check in on that. I love the gameplay clips they showed off. Whatever they were showing off was always very interesting to look at. Like, it was either an action shot or seeing a new area or like a secret being revealed. They were very good about, like, I think that mentality carried over into like game production sites of the late 90s and 2000s. Like, hey, your gameplay needs to look good. I think it had a good impact on there. And a lot of this stuff just felt like good, like dev walkthroughs. We don't see as much of that anymore nowadays, or we just get it like as part of a formal presentation. But we've been to E3s where that was like one of the big bread and butter things to go get a dev walkthrough, because people want to see gameplay and it being explained to them what the heck's going on, because all the press conferences were lengthy analysis and data stuff and graphs, and then a few trailers, and then like executives talking, and no gameplay breakdowns ever.
Right.
Like, that was hardly a thing. So this was, ahead of its time almost.
Well, and the other thing that's kind of crazy too, to sort of stick your head back into this moment, is, there have been a lot of these Yoshi games since then, and we kind of like we're familiar with the mechanics. We know how they work. We know the art style. They were explaining all this stuff was new.
Yeah.
Like the scribble crayon look was something that not very many games had done.
Them explaining that, yeah.
Yoshi shooting eggs was an entirely new thing. And then just like the way that a lot of that stuff worked and looked, and all the different visual effects, like you were saying, it wasn't anything that we had really seen before, And I think there's still obviously a lot of people that just kind of brushed it off because it looked like like a little kid's game, but it was doing a lot of impressive technical work.
Yeah, it's funny you said kids game, because the video, I felt like they were kind of making it seem like it was going to be kind of challenging. Mm-hmm. There's like some of the language they used, so like you're looking for, like, because the tips and tricks they were showing you, and even one of the play testers, like, I'm known as like the egg god right now or whatever, and like showing how to bank the shots and stuff. It was just really cool to see stuff like that. I made a note here that it was at this third video, where I felt like this is where I feel these types of videos evolved into Treehouse Live. I said direct early. I meant like Treehouse Live.
Oh, sure.
This is what Treehouse Live now is. These videos were like a 90s version of Treehouse Live with like skits weaved in between. So that's it's cool to trace back kind of like the genesis of this type of stuff. And
this one still had some office shots and things like that going on. So, like you were saying, I think, this is probably one of the more straightforward ones. It had watermelons and stuff around the office, but there wasn't a whole lot of that.
Yeah, they definitely toned it back from the DKC one, and it wasn't as crazy as the Invasion of Nintendo one. So yeah, it was probably their most matter-of-fact one, honestly.
Yeah. Well, actually, the next one might be the most matter-of-fact, because it was pretty straightforward.
The next one was maybe more fact. It's just the visuals of the interiors, and we're talking about the N64. N64 changed the system video.
Yeah.
I have to say this one I got, and I have to say I watched this video every night until I got a Nintendo 64. I thought the kids selected to go to NOHQ, they seemed way older than me at the time, were the coolest kids ever. I was like, man, you are the coolest person ever. And now, as an adult, like, this is all staged. Like, this is not, This is not real at all. But yeah, this thing got me hyped and excited for Nintendo 64. Before I let you talk here real quick, I want to say this very little known fact. I was saving up money in late 95, to buy a new game system, because I knew they're coming out in 96, or that's when I'd be able to buy one probably. Originally, my little like thing I had to store my money from all like the odd jobs I did, like babysitting or mowing hours, whatever, was called the PlayStation Fund. Because I was originally going to get a PS1 because everyone around me was telling me how cool it was. And I had a neighbor who had it. I was like, this is so cool. You're so lame now, Nintendo. And then I got this video, and I was like, okay, I wanted now Nintendo 64 is cool. PlayStation's lame. I was like, Super Mario 64? All right, this is real. Like, I'm going to play this. So this video actually helped change my mind to, like, I'm going to contribute. I mean, I didn't have enough to buy the whole thing, but, like, I helped pay for it. I was like, this is going towards helping to buy an N64 for me and change it from a PlayStation 1 fund. This video. But yeah, how do you what'd you think about this video with like the inside looks at a few of the first Nintendo 64 games in the system?
Oh, yeah, again, like the technology and everything was so new that it was mind blowing. And like I remember this one a lot more because like you're saying, like these tapes, like that was it. Like that was the way to see this footage. That was the only way. And so yeah, you watch them over and over again. What I find interesting in the start is just kind of looking at like the window of time that this had to have arrived, because they talk about it already being released in Japan.
Yep.
June 23rd, and then it's coming out in the US in September 29th. So it had, like, we had to have gotten this like right in the middle there, like July, August. Like there's not a lot of time in between these two things. And then I know like the Mario 64 stations were going into Toys R Us and places
I remember
like that.
those.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember those for sure.
Going back and trying to play those as much as I could. So it's interesting to think that, like, you know, if you had the means and the knowledge at this point, you could have, you know, technically have imported an N64.
Yeah, I'm sure someone did that at the time, but it was It's one of the first times I can remember being cognizant of like the staggered release launch windows, like being aware of that type of stuff. I mean, Nintendo Power did help, you know, talk about that as well with the game releases, but like also consoles coming out at different times. Like, and that was like the norm back then.
Yeah. Well, what was funnier too is I remember, I think but they were fairly close together comparatively, because when you go back to the Super NES, I remember there was a time where somebody had gotten a letter asking if we would get a Super NES because the Super Famicom was out in Japan. It was like, oh no, we don't have any plans. You know, the NES has all the games you need.
Okay.
To think about that kind of a gap towards like they're not even telling people. They don't want to tell people that a Super NES is coming.
Well, I also remember real quick seeing a segment on YouTube I was linked to about a news story about how some parents were concerned that Super Nintendo wasn't backwards compatible with NES.
Right.
Like that was something even back then. Like, when I have to probably make a whole new thing and it doesn't play the older stuff. Like that was a thing even back then. You know, to this day we still like, hey, backwards compatibility.
So the idea of changing technology was so new. And Atari was backwards compatible. For a lot of those systems. Yeah.
I was an Atari person, so that's good to know. So it already existed, so maybe some expectations had been set already for that.
Yeah. Although, the differences between one Atari console and an X are kind of hard to see at this point.
Fair point.
But yeah, they roll these kids up in a classic car. One of them, the check-in desk, I thought this was hilarious because it clearly just in a random warehouse.
Yeah, that's
the authentic Nintendo offices from before are gone. They're just in some weird random warehouse, the hallway full of doors, and
so
one kid
weird.
gets lost down the. He breaks off. Nobody notices, even though there's only 3 kids.
It's just weird like that, and you just go with it. I think the kid's like, yeah, that's what a kid would do.
They hype up anti-aliasing, which is really funny on it.
Yeah,
it's like running 240p, but with anti-aliasing to smooth out those edges.
I mean, that type of stuff. Yeah, I mean that. I don't know who that really was aimed for. That maybe it's like more like, hey, it's graphics. Means it's better. Good lingo. I was blown away by the analog stick part where they were showing like this tap in Mario. I was like, wait, what?
Actually showing that off.
Degrees of movement with they called it the control stick, not the analog. It was a control stick. And then the Bowser preview, like swinging Bowser. I was like, wait, what are we doing here? This is so cool looking. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that was very, very interesting. I'm trying to think what was
the pilot.
Oh, they had these weird skits with like R&D guys.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to see if you were gonna mention
there was
that.
the Pilot Wings one with the guy at the hang glider, but there was also one where like they had a guy in a helmet like running around in circles in like an empty room to like be R&D for Mario
to jump into a painting, and it's
yeah,
like
he jumped into a physical painting.
I just wrote R&D gags W2F question mark. It's like, yeah, that was what Nintendo thought would be funny and cool back then. It's just like, hey, this is the research and development of one of the games. It's like, because despite them having technical, talk a little bit here, it's like actual dev interviews with the dev team would be too boring. So we're gonna show you a quirky skit here. Go ahead.
Pilot Wing 64, the A button, commonly known as the blue button.
Yeah. It's like, wait, what? Oh, Nintendo, what are you doing? Like, yeah, we're gonna.
But yeah, Armand Williams again in this one. So 3 years in a row, he managed to get in there.
Yeah, it was nice to see him back. The showing off the gameplay, a little bit of a tips and trick segment there.
Yeah, he really does talk about like secrets in Pilot Wings and that kind of thing, and shows off the later unlockables.
The cannonball thing was like level. It's like, oh, that's gonna be probably cool. It was interesting they went with Shadows of the Empire.
Oh yeah,
for
deal.
For the big deal, because it was. I knew as a kid, I knew Star Wars was big. I had seen the original trilogy like on tape or VHS or DVD, TV, whatever, but obviously I wasn't alive when they came out. But it was approaching the 20th anniversary, so like I think the being in '96 is just a little bit before. Getting Star Wars, it's a huge property. It's a new game with like it's based on the comic or whatever.
No, there was a novel.
Novel, sorry.
I don't know. That was like a cross media thing that they like. It wasn't like one was based on the other. Like they came out at the same time.
I'm a little vague on that, but like I remember being a huge thing because it's like, oh wow, this is a brand new Star Wars game, and what they showed off, I think at the time, I thought it looked cool, like seeing speeder bikes. The Hoth level, that's exactly what you want to be in the snow speeder going around and the tow cable. It's like you're playing that in 3D. It's like, okay, this, going through the Hoth base, shooting stormtroopers. It's like, well, flying spaceships in the asteroid field and going into the cockpit, and like it's like they hit all the right notes. I feel like, and it seems so cool.
Well, and that was what they were, really emphasizing. There's just a variety of that game, and even now, like you look back at everything there, and even if it wasn't the best that it could be, it was doing a lot for essentially a launch game. It wasn't right at launch, but it was there very soon after. And to have flying levels, to have the speeder level, to have the snow level, and the first person, or not first person, but third person shooting. I think you can go in first person in that, but not walk around the whole time maybe. But anyways, the shooting levels. And have all that stuff working and running in the same game. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive what they did with Shadows of the Empire. And then, they did this, I think, in another one too. It's like, wait, there's more?
Oh, not just another. This, I wrote down, like, guess what's at the end again? Another, there's more montage, sizzle reel, whatever.
But they show a lot here.
Yeah.
Kirby's Air Ride, Cruising USA, GoldenEye, Body Harvest, Wave Race 64, Super Mario Kart R, Blast Corps, Star Fox 64 with the old logo, and then some sports games like Ken Griffey FIFA and Wayne Gretzky Hockey. And then because this was very, very, very promotional, the date, $199.95, change the system, and then Killer Instinct Gold.
Yeah, gold tease.
Little hidden segment at the end.
Like that, you had to wait a little bit, and then it came on. I mean, it's interesting because the criticisms leveraged at Nintendo 64 for why it lost the market share to PlayStation and Sony. People accused of not having enough games, not having enough third-party games on there, and you look at something like this, and you actually look back at some of their output. It's like they did have a lot of games, especially when we get to the sports one. It's like they had a ton of sports games on Nintendo 64 as well. I think it came down to there were just certain hits that were only on PlayStation.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the RPG factor.
Yeah. And losing Square to Sony was another big one for that time. And
not a lot of fighting games either. You had Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct. But, there was a lot. Like, there's just... It's funny because, like, on its own, like, the Nintendo 64, seems to have quite a good number of games. But then when you look at PlayStation, it was just like a flood.
Exactly.
And with a lot of ththings like the CD-based stuff with all the movies and that level of graphics.
There's a lot. I mean, it's a whole other topic, but it was clear to see. But like at least at the outgo, they were trying their best to show that they had a lot of games for it. And one of those in the sizzle reel, as you mentioned, Star Fox 64, would be the subject of their next video, just called Star Fox 64. I tried looking for like a title of it, just called Star Fox 64. This one I actually did get as well.
Yep. Got this one. Watch this a lot.
At the time, this was my favorite one. Like in terms of thing, watching it now, not so much. It's a little cheesy.
Yeah.
This was another one that played into the spy angle. You have like the Sony and the Sega people like dropping in like or in a van, and they like. Nintendo test pilot guy parachutes into the front of Nintendo headquarters, walking in the jumpsuit with the Star Fox logo. I want that thing. And then they just stroll up and they're like, "Hey, buddy, you got the time?" And he's like, "Yeah, hey, aren't you?" And it's like this comical, like
fake Italian accent.
Like, it's like I don't know if what it's referencing specifically, but I feel like it's referencing like some old TV show or like trope
it's
or
like
something.
Some kind of like mafia goon kind of
like
idea.
Three Stooges almost like weirdness. It's just like, and then they interrogate him about Star Fox 64, and how they don't really interrogate him so much as they interrogate a Mario doll.
Oh, well, they have, so they're interrogating him, but they have a Mario's
they're torturing the doll,
in
interrogating
a vice.
him.
And then they start, like, cranking it and squeezing his head. It's like, no, leave Mario out of this.
Leave Mario
and then
out of this.
And then, like, he, it's like, oh, I can't tell you this, or Bob's gonna kill me. It's like, and then
really?
so they disguise themselves as pizza delivery guys and go to the world of Nintendo. It was kind of like a lobby area in the old Nintendo building.
Yeah.
And then they and Bob is there, but I think everybody in this is an actor. I don't think there's a single real like Nintendo tester or anything like that.
They shifted away, starting with this one. They shifted away from using
all
a
like
lot
a
of the
weird
internal
gimmick.
Staff. It's funny they kept going with the spy stuff because it's like makes you think in pop culture that
the point about the spies though that's very important to note in this one, because the first spy thing we had with the Invasion Nintendo, they were just kind of like just generic secret agents. This one, they literally have a guy in a Sony shirt and a guy in a Sega shirt.
With a megaphone. It would make you believe that corporate espionage and like heated rivalries were like common and it was like serious. It's like serious business. But like nowadays, it's like they're all kind of friends with each other, and like they say nice things in their press conferences about each other. They even work with each other. But like, I wonder if this is definitely like the console war fanboy era. Fanboy war stuff. It was
talking about Saturn.
Oh yeah, I was totally feeding into that stuff for sure. The Rumble Pack.
You didn't tell them about the Rumble Pack, did you? Oh, you did. You did just now. Or I forget what they said in response.
He goes, "No, Bob, you did." He goes, "Uh-oh." And, he's back on the couch. The jump pilot guy is eating pizza. Oh, this is good pizza. I liked how they labeled Star Fox 64 as a cinematic gaming experience. Cinematic. Coming from Nintendo for Star Fox from Miyamoto. I remember the Nintendo Power Strategy Guide, Miyamoto talking about how like movies, he wanted this to feel like a movie.
Right.
But in the years after, Miyamoto kind of got an infamous reputation for being like anti-story, anti-like cutscene and stuff. Yet Star Fox 64 is like flies in the face of all this. I'd love to know like what really happened there. Like, was this just a passion project for Miyamoto and like that one and done? I don't need to do this anymore, or did something happen to change his mind? But it's like it's interesting to see. But I will say at the time, like Independence Day just come out. Some of these stages had just looked like Independence Day.
The Independence Day nod in this game is hilarious. And you see it in this as well. But yeah, there's a lot of cinematics. There's a lot of voice acting. But again, like putting yourself into the moment of the Rumble Pack itself, and them explaining it. And it's like, it was so mind-blowing. And so either you were all in and you're really sold, or you thought it was a stupid gimmick. But in neither sense did you think that this would be just a take it for granted feature of video games.
I know
that every controller would do this.
Yeah, was a day or two ago. You were talking about we were talking about this, and you're like how this immediately right after all three jumped. I mean, even in this generation, because you're saying of Metal Gear Solid, like with Kojima, you brought up about pushing Sony to make that controller, and then a generation after, everyone was doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you have Star Fox 64 used it really well. Zelda used it really well. GoldenEye used it really well. But then, with Sony bringing out the DualShock and then the number of games, and then I'll give a lot of credit to Kojima for pulling his little mind tricks with what you could do with Rumble. And then I think in Star Fox 64, and even the way it's presented here, it's like, when you get a hit, you feel it a little bit. When you explode, you'll feel it a lot. It was all just about intensity and length.
The nuance.
And the DualShock and Kojima, like, really, I think, opened up people's minds to, like, how many different things you could do to this.
I love that because I would jump to the conclusion of like, it's just gonna rumble at the same vibration no matter what, and like even from the get go, like no, it's gonna have subtlety differences, as you said. Like the crash is gonna feel more intense, whereas a hit's gonna feel a little bit weaker, and like
I don't think Sega ever did one though. I can't remember a Sega controller
not off the top of my head.
Rumble.
Not off the top of my head. I can remember
the Saturn
one.
controller. There was one for Knights that had like an analog stick, and then obviously the Dreamcast controller did one. Maybe the Dreamcast had like something that went into VMU slot that would rumble.
I thought it did.
That could be
because they had a fishing game. I thought they used it.
Yeah, that would have been a separate thing.
Or maybe it was just the fishing peripheral that used it.
Shove the fishing thing in there. We're getting off topic.
But anyway,
the
last thing I want to say about this video is the tease at the end, like the Zelda 64 footage. It had like the tease Triforce shot that's now infamous, not the full one, but like Zelda 64 footage.
There was stills in this one, right?
Development. Oh no, this is footage. This is video in this one. Okay. But video footage of early Zelda Ocarina of Time, then called Zelda 64, was sought after. Like Indiana Jones Holy Grail type stuff, like we got to find this. Like it's really awesome, and like having it tucked away in these promo videos was like just why this one maybe was like so sought after and brought up a lot is because it had footage of it.
Yeah, they pitched the player's guide at the end too.
Oh yeah,
let me see that. You can buy it at the store.
Thanks again. All right, Blood. Got a few more here. I know we're running short on time. Hot Topic Diddy Kong Racing. This one I did get. This is the one I felt like an episode of Easy Updates.
Right. This one is real weird. I've been on the fence as to whether like I had this or not, but I like watching it again. Some of these things started to feel familiar, so I think I did. I think because it was so bad, I didn't watch it the way I watched the others.
Okay, I agree with you. I didn't watch it a lot. I think it goes way too hard on its concept. In fact, I don't think it works well here.
I don't think they've told you much about the game at all.
Yeah, because it overpowers. It's overbearing. It's more about the skits in this like storyline between like the news stories than the actual gameplay. Like they finally get to some like gameplay points. It's just they don't do enough. If they'd like balanced it out better, I think it would have ended up being a much better promo video. I mean, it also has a montage at the end like everything else, but otherwise, I think this is one of the worst videos they made, honestly, unfortunately.
Yeah, because it was like they went with like this news program idea, and then they would just like cut to like on location reporters, and the one guy's in like a full body cast, another person's in a tree, another person's in a swimming pool, and like it was just constantly looking at these different sets rather than looking at the game. And so it becomes really distracting because I think they are talking about the game quite a bit throughout.
Yeah.
But your brain is somewhere else.
It's just hard. Yeah, it's hard to focus. I don't know what they're really going for. There's weird 70s like aesthetic going on too with some of the room designs. It's kind of all over the place, honestly, in my opinion, and definitely one of the weaker ones. This next one, though, it might have been in response to that because they stepped away from live action segments altogether in this next one. Nintendo 64 introduces 3 new ways to bring it. There's a video that focused on the Nintendo 64 sports lineup. They were trying to show that Nintendo had sports games on it. Covers MLB baseball featuring Ken Griffey Jr., 1080 snowboarding, and NBA Kobe Bryant and NBA courtside. Yeah. All 3 games, which I ended up getting as well. Not because of this video, because I never had it, but
I didn't know about this video either. In 1998. Yeah, I was graduating high school by then. So, but yeah, so it's interesting because I think this is presented much differently than any of the previous ones, to
Mm-hmm.
where it really is just the games and a narrator. And they even do like little play-by-play
Yeah.
on the King Griffey stuff, which I really appreciate. So
Yeah.
just like, we're just gonna walk you through how this game plays.
Yeah, I think that one actually worked pretty well. I enjoyed it. I mean, I could tell like they were trying, but like at the same time, it's like this is all this needs. You know, this would be weird to have skits or something going on here. Like maybe they had a King Griffey Jr. bit in there, but like had him in there, but that would have cost a fortune.
They hyped up the controller and what you could do with it, as well as 4-player.
4-player split
Yeah.
screen. Like that was the biggest thing through that. And like they kept showing a bunch of games, especially in the montage ends. Like a lot of these games you can play 4-player right there with sports games, which are meant to be played with like multiplayer.
Especially NBA, yeah. Man.
Yeah. I
And
like
right when Kobe Bryant was first on the scene.
exactly. Like
Nintendo had
this was
snagged him.
big
Yeah.
get for them. Like, you know, young player in the NBA. I mean, Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal were like the two like other biggest people at the time, I would say, and like being marketing for video games. And it's like, oh, we got Kobe Bryant, and Kobe Bryant would be going to be huge. And yeah, I mean, he didn't stick. It wasn't as many games for Nintendo as Ken Griffey. I think Ken Griffey was there a little bit longer because also their partnership with the Mariners at the time, but. They it wasn't for a lack of trying. I feel like Nintendo with their sports division and trying to like
well, they even you see the logo, the Nintendo Sports logo in there, and
yeah.
and they do show off, like you said, they do show up a lot of sports games towards the end.
They got a lot of third-party games that are on both systems. I mean, like I remember playing the heck out of Wayne Gretzky 3D Hockey. I love that game. There Blitz, NFL Blitz, but it's like again, that was not. As we don't need to get into, it was not the reason why Nintendo fell behind its competition. It was just like, you know, to put it bluntly, like it was more of like a marketing and image problem. Which, you know, as you can see, some of the misses in some of these videos is like sometimes Nintendo didn't really know how to present themselves. Like they have great games, but how do you present them in a way that like gets people interested in them? And sometimes the simplest way is the most effective. Where I think this video, you know, like I'm the more the sports guy here, but like I don't particularly play a lot of sports video games.
Right.
But like I was able to enjoy this video. I was like dreading it when it came up in the queue, and I'm like, oh no. But I was like, this was not so bad.
It was actually really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, at the time I was definitely playing more sports games than I do now. Things weren't too crazy or complicated, or
yeah.
you could just pick up. You know, it didn't matter what it was. You could just pick up and play that with your friends.
Got three more here quick. Banjo-Kazooie, The New Adventure Begins. I didn't have this one because it was only a Blockbuster.
Yeah, this is weird. There was some scheme where like you rent this and then you'd get there was like if you rented the game from Blockbuster, then you would get a coupon to buy the game somewhere else. Like it was weird.
I don't remember that part, but I do remember renting it because I wanted to check it out. And I remember being blown away because I couldn't remember the name as a kid, but you know, John Lovitz being the narrator, a famous actor.
Oh wait, it was actually John Lovitz?
Yeah, that's John Lovitz. It really is him. They got him.
I thought they got somebody to
No, so it
imitate
sounded
him.
like it is actually John Lovitz is doing it. And there's no live action with him, but he's just like narrating it like a game developer walkthrough, but much more personality and flair, and throwing in some jokes and one-liners in there. It's like,
that's funny.
This, you know, I didn't hate this actually. I thought it was like pretty okay for what it was. You know, a nice overview from you know, of the game. I mean, I think if anything, it showed too much. It showed like every level. I think.
Yeah, they like walked you through every world.
Yeah. I didn't care about spoilers.
The thing that I thought was interesting too is this is the first time that I noticed it in a way that the editing really lined up very well with the stuff that they were talking about and the jokes even.
Yeah.
You know, he'd make a joke and then you'd see a visual gag on the screen that kind of like fit along with it. And like, man, somebody really like put their time into either like going back and capturing after they wrote this narration or just making sure all that stuff lined up really well. Yeah.
It's a video I think that would still even work today. If they got a celebrity to do something, like this is how you would like do an effective video. Trim down the length, maybe it's a little on the long side, but otherwise, yeah, I thought it was, you know, I was surprised by how well it turned out because I was like, remember watching and hearing, oh no, it's gonna be one of those cringe comedy. It's like, no, it's not really. So I was already sold on Banjo-Kazooie before I got the video, so like I just wanted to watch it for fun. I remember
the what was funny to me here too in the tips. They tell you to write down everything that the good
Yep.
witch says. Like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Not the best part of that game.
Trivia quizzes in a rare 3D game. Yeah.
The montage on this is very interesting as well. Turok 2,
Yeah.
F-Zero X, F1 World GP, Ocarina of Time, which I
Yep.
think is the first time that they've shown that with the name.
Yeah, but it was like footage we come to like it's normal
Yeah.
footage now, so it's not as rare.
Yeah.
But nice
Yeah, but I mean,
tease
it
at
looked,
the time.
yeah,
Yeah,
at that
yeah.
point, we finally got to see like the final game. 12 Tails Conquer 64.
Yeah, before it got its Attitude Era. Bad Boy Conquer. This was the innocent Conquer. Oh.
Mortal Kombat 4 and then Wipeout 64.
Yeah,
in there as
Wipeout,
well,
seeing
yeah.
a PlayStation game, or a game made popular in PlayStation, trying to make its appearance. One of these montages had StarCraft in it too. I forget which one it was.
I think
but
that might be the last one.
Yeah. But I mean, they were trying to woo over people from other platforms.
Yeah. It wasn't the last one. It was the next one, the Hot News.
So Hot News 64 is the next one, the second and last one. This one I don't remember if I had it or got it later on, but I definitely watched it like forever ago, like long
Okay.
time ago.
Yeah, I definitely had not seen this.
It goes back to that spoof news style, like the Diddy Kong Racing one, but like this one was try hard and embarrassing to me.
Oh yeah, this guy was like just overemphasizing his face a lot. And just
It was
being
like
really
early.
purposely annoying.
Even though it was 90s, it felt like early 2000s, like bad sitcom. Like, who's the host that hosted the Game Awards with Keeley that was infamous? The comedian.
Come on, Joel McHale.
Yeah,
Oh, this guy's way worse than Joel.
yeah,
McHale.
this guy's way worse than Joel McHale. But I was like, this is like what happens when you get someone who like doesn't really like they're not gelling with the content here. Like this is a bad choice for the actor for this. It's like, and it was interesting because they were focusing on like Jet Force Gemini and Donkey Kong 64, which is games I think, especially Jet Force Gemini, could have benefited from a really good promo video.
Right.
And I don't think this did again, it's too distracting, everything else about the video, that you don't get to focus as much on it.
I do think though when they break away and they show the first thing that they show,
Yeah.
the Jet Force Gemini, like it looks like a modern trailer. Like it really, to me, has a lot of the elements that you would expect from a trailer today.
So in my notes, I'm like, it's like how I was annoyed by all this, and it's like then you finally get to the extended dev walkthrough, and this it feels like they're actually going for something that's more like a more modern trailer you'd see nowadays. So, sorry, but that's the thing. The beginning of the video left the bigger impression in my mind that like even only watching it a few days ago, is like that's how bad like the skit stuff was, whereas like the actual trailer content, actually, sorry to correct myself, is really good.
Yeah,
and is worthwhile. It's just they really needed to find a way to make the overall video better.
Yeah,
and just focus on it.
I chuckled at the term near first person. What the crap is this?
Near first person.
What?
Near first person. I forgot about the Donkey Kong Country TV show because they promote and the Legend of the Crystal Coconut.
So bad.
It looks so bad. I was like, wait, your ACM you showed off in the DKC video looks better than this.
Yeah,
cartoon.
4 years earlier, the modeling and whoever made that show, I don't know. It's like it really looks like somebody that had no clue what they were doing.
We need to have, if it's ever allowed, we need to do a watch party for that movie. Just like all of us watching it with the chat, just to see. That's got to be an experience because I haven't seen that. I might have rented it back in the day and I forgot about it. I don't remember it. A small little funny last minute note about this.
Mm-hmm.
During one of the games, I think it was Pokemon Snap, Kobe Bryant 2 logo shows up randomly in a frame.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, wait, what? Kind of distracted me, but I was like, I wonder if they were like just overall just dialing it in a little bit on this video.
Donkey Kong 64, I didn't feel like they really showed that game off as well as Jet Force Gemini in there.
No.
They also had this weird like Ask Dan in between things.
Yeah, like Evil Dan, which was a persona of his back in the day.
Yeah.
They were going with that, which is like sad because like he was so nice in like the Donkey Kong Country video. And they went with
No, this isn't Dan Osten, I don't think. I think this is a different Dan. I know his face is blurred out, but it does not seem like the same person to me.
Well, Ask Dan was Dan Osen.
Was Dan Osen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in Nintendo.
Maybe he just had like a different hairstyle at the time or
I
something.
mean, this is like, what, 5-6 years later after that
Right.
video? So it's been, I mean, yeah. I don't know if the actor, the person you're being shown is literally Daniel Osen there.
Maybe that's it.
That
Maybe
might
that's
be
why they
it.
blurred his
But
face.
the segment column was his thing, like giving
Okay.
out tips and tricks.
Because
yeah.
it didn't seem like it sound like him or
yeah,
look like him.
It
So
was probably something
off
like
there.
that for sure. But those were a little like
And the emails
weird.
were totally fake.
Oh yeah, it was like come
Yeah.
on, like again. I wonder if this is in response they were falling so behind for Sony. They were just trying anything at that point just to like seem cool and hip. That we gotta try anything. I mean that like some of their promo campaigns and that like spread time period leading into GameCube. It's like the Who Are You or whatever things
Right.
like what is going on here, but.
Another
Yeah.
cool montage though at the end.
Yeah, that's the thing they do. They do cool no matter what, you could expect a cool montage at the end of all these.
They were
VHS
all really
videos.
brief though. That's the only thing
Yeah.
that's kind of a bummer. But they at least showed you the names of the games. But yeah,
Sizzle reel.
Mario Golf in there, StarCraft 64 in
Yep.
there, Pokemon Snap, Duke Nukem.
Duke, yeah, the
which
Duke
I think
Nukem.
I forgot came out on N64. If it actually did release, Rayman 2, Gauntlet Legends, Armorines, another title I forgot about. World Driver Championship, Shadow Man,
Yeah.
40 Winks,
40 winks.
Toy Story 2, Blitz 2000, WWF Attitude, Hybrid Heaven,
Hybrid head.
which for a while I was hyped on, but then it never ended up really playing. Hydro Thunder, Nuclear Strike, we were talking about a Strike series not that long ago, and Revolt.
A lot of games. I mean, they
Yeah.
were trying really hard.
And then the last one is the weird one, man.
Oh, the Majora's Mask hot video preview?
Yeah.
You think this is weird to you?
It's weird to me because it's like it definitely has this vibe that like Toys R Us is presenting this video. To you.
Okay. I
Yeah.
get you now. Yeah, it was definitely Toys R Us promo. I never had this one, and I was mad when I found it existed, and I didn't actually ever get it.
I didn't know
but
about
I didn't
this.
realize it was Toys R Us only. So it was funny because there's a line at the beginning when they're promoting it. It's like it's a sequel to like one of the best games ever. Some say it's the best game ever. Others say it's better than the original. I'm like, who's saying it's better? Wait, it's not even out yet. Who's saying that? I was like, wait, what's going on here? Yeah, it was like a very reserved like dev interview with like overview with the gameplay clips.
This Chris Campbell guy, which it's weird because they credit him as like Nintendo's game guru. So like, are you a Nintendo Power guy?
I think he was a
you-
person who worked on the strategy guide for Majora's Mask for Nintendo
Sure.
Power. I remember seeing their name
Yeah.
in there. I'm interested because the visit Zelda.com at the bottom of the whole time. Nintendo finally felt confident in letting you know about that website. I liked
boy.
how they showcased the mask transformations, though.
Yeah,
that was a
they
big hook
talked
for the
about
game.
Gorons and the Zoros,
And
yeah.
the expansion pack. They talked about how it made things possible. They got a little bit technical there.
Yeah, they did that with DK64 bit too. They talked about the expansion pack. But the funniest thing to me is this ridiculous shot of Miyamoto in a robe. And I'm like, why? What is this
it's like
from?
the
This has no context.
First video, the first of these promos to mention the word Miyamoto.
Never been mentioned
Never been
before.
mentioned and shown. We're going to show
And
you.
then they get it so wrong. Miyamoto is known for redefining games, and this is no exception. Miyamoto just handed this off to Aonuma.
Yeah, it was.
He wasn't involved.
Bit of a mess out there, but very funny. I enjoyed it. Love the pre-order promo. The gold cart, the holographic image, the gold controller is like. I was like very into that type of stuff, but like none of the other ones really did like pre-order bonuses. I think, as far as I remember.
Yeah, they would pitch to things, but I don't.
Yeah.
Again, this is a Toys R Us thing, so yeah, they didn't talk about any of the other pre-order bonuses before.
And they wrapped it up with something a little interesting too.
Armand Williams is back
Yeah.
talking about Banjo-Tooie.
Yeah, a little short overview video teaser there of that. That was kind of nice to see. But
And talked about the Kazooie shotgun level.
that was what I was
yeah.
trying to remember. Like, yeah, he goes, hey, you could like go in like first person or whatever, and it's like you're just shooting eggs like a shotgun. It's like, would you ever think you'd be doing that? I'm like, yeah, I guess I did. So Bloodworth, we've been talking about these Nintendo VHS tapes.
Yeah.
But I got a patron question here about a certain VHS tape that you actually messaged me about on Slack as well on your own. So it's kind of funny that they specifically asked about this. This comes from Joseph Caruso. Like many Nintendo fans that grew up in the 90s, I saw the Donkey Kong Country, N64, and Star Fox 64 VHS tapes. But I vaguely recall a friend of mine had a tape about the development of Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, yeah.
Do either of you have experience with that one? I'll never forget how impressive that game was in almost every way when it first came out. Love and respect.
Yeah, I got that tape too.
Oh, man.
Which is interesting because I feel like a lot of the others I got through Nintendo Power. So somewhere along the line, I gave Square Enix or SquareSoft my contact info for I don't remember what.
Yeah, I didn't know this existed as a VHS tape or something. Like maybe I did like in the past and just forgot about it, but I mistook it at first when you linked it to me as like a Japanese video, and someone just like subtitled it, and I'm like, oh wait, no, this is officially released, I guess. So I was shocked because the style of this video is actually like a lot of Japanese VHS and DVDs that came out in the 90s and 2000s. Like there's one, some that I tracked down, like one called Zelda No Video, which is like a whole like behind the scenes of the Zelda series, like interviews with like Miyamoto and Numa.
Wow.
It was basically the same kind of style as this, and I was like, whoa! I love these types of things, and especially while this is for Final Fantasy, it's pretty cool to see these types of things because like Nintendo at that time really didn't do stuff like that, I feel like. So it's kind of cool to see a Japanese developer giving you this kind of like access.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing, because if you're saying there's some things in Japan, like I could see that, like in Japan they were doing this kind of thing, but in America, all the ones that we had just talked about were all, essentially testing and localization staff. It's with probably the exception of like Dan Osen and Ken Lobb, who had kind of bigger roles. Whereas this is like, no, this is Sakaguchi, here's Katase, here's not everybody, but there's a lot of people here. Uematsu's in there, talking about how they can do the music differently now that they have I think 24 channels on the PlayStation compared to like 8 or something on the Super
Nintendo. Yeah.
And so it's really cool, and it starts off with just like kind of a big old hype montage of all the CG cutscenes and everything, and a bunch of press quotes from previews. I'm assuming, because I'm like, wait, this is before the game came out, but you're giving me a bunch of press quotes. Where are these from? And one of the things I wrote down there: a generational leap across 3 CD-ROMs. Just really hyping up the fact that I needed all of those.
Yeah, CDs. I mean, they included the trailers at the end too, the infamous trailers that made it like a movie production. As well.
Yeah.
Like a cast of thousands.
Yeah, because the TV spots were hilarious.
Yeah, the TV spots. It's like
more than 200 animators and programmers, which the interview kind of like contradicts earlier because they're talking about a staff of 100.
Yeah.
So I'm like, huh?
I think they were like the TV spots were obviously to like inflate the make it hype basically. And as a kid,
$1 million production.
It worked. I was jealous.
Over 2 years in the making.
Yeah, man, they were
with a cast of thousands. What is the cast of thousands referring to?
I don't know. I don't even know if there's 1,000 characters in Final Fantasy VII. Yeah.
So does that mean there can't be 1,000 character models in the game?
They're highlighting what video games can do that movies can't. Because movies, you got to get actors.
Oh, yeah, but that's the best final quote. They said it couldn't be done in a major motion picture. They were right.
That's attitude error Square Enix or SquareSoft right there.
Yeah, I keep doing the same thing. Like I'm rewriting history. Sakaguchi, though, I think was funny because they started off with his interview and then they kind of bounced between the other guys. They were talking about, they talked about the SIGGRAPH demo, which was kind of, really, really famous the first time that they showed 3D Combat Arena. But then they were kind of talking about like why it went to PlayStation, why it went to CD-ROM, and his response is, we became too aggressive and got ourselves into trouble. So basically, they like everything that they were working with. They put themselves in a position of, well, we can't put this on a cartridge now.
Oh gosh,
it has to be on a CD.
They went too big, and yeah.
Oh man, so good. Who else is in here? Kazuyuki Hashimoto is graphics supervisor. So they were he was talking about the the fact that they're using both the CG movies, essentially similar to what Donkey Kong Country had done a couple years earlier, but also doing the 3D polygons. And then Kazushige Nojima, who was the planner.
Yep.
And then they had multiple people kind of like they would ask a question, they would bounce back and forth between multiple staff members and into their insights. And apparently Katase had some experience that had like aspired to being a filmmaker, which they sort of credited to how cinematic this game ended up being.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that I've seen several Japanese developer interviews that have stated that their intended profession they sought after was, to be in film, basically filmmaking. Yoshiaki Koizumi also wanted to pursue being like a filmmaker first, and then joined Nintendo. But you could see hints of their work and efforts by like caring so much about the early Zelda games, like the manuals, putting all the story stuff into manuals, into any place they could, even despite technical limitations. So yeah, it is interesting to see, what backgrounds people went to, what they went to a vocational school for something specifically, and then they end up in game development, but how that carries over to influencing the games they work on. It's some pretty good stories out there in developer interviews, I would say.
Yeah, and Nintendo kind of specifically even now kind of tries to. I don't know how they manage to do that, but they try to hire people that don't, that aren't interested necessarily in game design. I'm like, how did you get them to apply?
Yeah, is it necessarily game design, or just like not interested in like gaming isn't like their like one of their hobbies per se? But even then, it's like still a little weird that like you have to maybe show disinterest in the very field you're working in. But I mean,
Miyamoto and specifically was like industrial design, right?
Oh man, I forget.
It was something that was much more practical than like anything artistic.
I know. Yeah, and I remember Sakura went to a specialist school as well, but I think it was for game development before he started working over at HAL, I believe, under Iwata. I did feel the vibe of this video. It feels a lot like the type of stuff that started to come out around like the 360, PS3, Wii era on like publisher YouTube channels. Right. When they started doing their own thing, this was the type of stuff. It would be like on bonus disc every now and then, but like this became kind of standardized. So it was like nice to see something like this being done so early on. But also it's so commonplace now. Like you wouldn't like a lot of this stuff. Sometimes it like goes under the radar, I feel like, with some of this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we do get some kind of like dev diary type things. But this is interesting because it wasn't even really dev diary. It was pretty straight up interviews, just kind of cut in between things to sort of make it more interesting. But I think that's what was nice about it, is that that you're just getting them talking about how they made the game at a time when you didn't hear that stuff that much, and especially for something where they were breaking new ground. To really get their ideas of like, well, what we wanted to do is we wanted to get the character moving on top of the movie, and it's just like, like, that's what people do, with those types of games for several years. But they were doing it first.
It's it's just like surprising they were able to get, because you think about SquareSoft, Square Enix history, and for like a good period they were so like protective. Like about their like the secretive nature of games, like spoilers, and also like access. It was like
talk about spoilers. There were some spoilers in those TV spots.
Oh, I know.
Holy cow!
Yeah, but I think we talked about before, like with the beginning with the trailers. It's like if you don't know the context, you don't really know. But it's flashy, it's epic looking, so that's what sells. So they're trying to get you hyped on the game. And apparently it worked. And whoever thought of like releasing this as a promo video, I mean, I think it probably did a good job, because it shows that not everything has to be. While they did have it at the bookend of each, of the video, the deep dive stuff sometimes is the simple. When we talk about the other Nintendo VHS tapes, the more traditional approach, like less skits, less like bits, stuff like that. This sometimes being straightforward works.
Again, like they had these in like these dark, dramatically lit rooms.
It's like, it's like you would never see that anymore.
It's really funny.
That is like a '90s thing. Like nowadays, it'd be beautifully lit, like very clean looking, like.
But
white backgrounds.
You know, they were on people long enough to establish who it was that was
Yeah.
talking, but it's Final Fantasy VII. The game just speaks for itself. They just keep rolling B-roll, and even when it repeats, it's like that's fine because you'd never seen a game look like this before. It was just on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And then
I'm just bummed I never saw this until way after. I was pretty hyped on Final 7, even though I didn't have a PlayStation. But it would have been nice to have something to keep watching over and over.
and then hard cut. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Bushido Blade.
Yep.
They start showing trailers for other Square games.
Go to other games. That was so cool. It's like, hey, they were doing it. They're showing it's like showing your catalog. It's like your fall catalog, your winter catalog. Here's our game catalog, and
they showed trailers for Bushido Blade and Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah.
And Saga Frontier. Before the TV spots were at the very end after that for Final Fantasy VII.
I'm trying to think of any other promo VHS tapes. I'm struggling to think of anything because the Final Fantasy VII one, I didn't have originally and became aware of much later, and even with the Nintendo ones. But I didn't look into this obviously because we were a little crunched for time with Easy Chillin' and this week. And I wish I had more time to dive into did Sega do any of this type of stuff?
Right.
Like Sonic? It feels like there should have been a Sonic or maybe not. Maybe they were trying to.
PS1 started getting into it with demo discs.
That's because it evolved into that, but specifically VHS promo tapes.
Yeah.
It's I did see there's one in the UK, or at least one in the UK, and one in Japan that were older than both of the Donkey Kong Country ones. But I didn't actually watch them. I just saw that they existed, and it'd be very interesting to see if there's a video out there that actually covers the entirety of video game VHS promo tapes. And it's just has anything we missed. And it as it evolved, as I said, it became included demo discs that had trailers, and even Nintendo was doing that. They'd have, when you found out what game were you showing me, where you had a second disc.
I think it was Mario Kart Double Dash.
Yeah, Mario Kart
has a
Double
demo
Dash.
disc in it,
Yeah. That became a thing even with Nintendo. So right after N64, I was like, here you go. We're going to start including these on disc as promo disc type things. So magazines doing it. That all worked. That was a big deal. And people have very fond memories about these promo disc and trailers from back then that you just don't see that anymore. That it's a bygone era that just things moved past
it's
it.
if there's a demo, it's sort of expected, and you certainly don't see people really hanging on to it and thinking about it a lot.
Yeah. With the internet now, it's just you can't keep the information will spread so fast that it kind of becomes a flash event that's here and gone. Where back then, even with the early internet, it's the things just spread at a much slower pace, and compounded with that is the fact that stuff was maybe only in Japanese. A lot of these games, these promotional stuff was only in Japan, only in Japanese, and then very few people could even understand it that would get it over here. And then time went by and people oh, did you catch this cool video that was in Japanese about this game? Wait, what? Oh, that's cool. Someone translated it. And more in all these old dev interviews that get translated that offer new insight into behind the scenes of games, and just generally that stuff is that's what's left, I think, is undiscovered promo video or an undiscovered interview in a lost magazine that was never very popular. Is the only thing that kind of evokes the same kind of feeling for me, I guess. Yeah. Well, I have a patron question here to wrap this up, Blood. And we're gonna go with we're gonna stick with the trailer theme for this one. This comes from Raul. What were your favorite Smash Brothers trailers?
Oh man. I gotta think Snake is gotta be the top.
Ooh, Snake for Brawl.
Yeah.
That was because that was the first trailer, which was interesting because if I remember this correctly, it wasn't in their E3 thing. It was actually shown at afterwards, it was put online, there's a round table, and then the trailer came out after, and it had the whole thing with Snake. It's Snake, where are you right now? You've been recruited to Smash Brothers. I'm doing reconnaissance. Yeah, because I was walking around their booth and seeing that, and I was wait, this wasn't in their presentation. Where did this come from? This is so cool. I think that's up there. I think that Brawl trailer was like definitely up there. Some of the DLC trailers, Blood, have been pretty impressive for me. It's about, I guess it's more about like excitement, like Sephiroth. It was just like so well done, and like the working in like the memes and like the callbacks, like Sephiroth stabbing Mario like Advent Children style, but it's really just like
and the Castlevania one was good.
Luigi getting scared.
Ridley.
Oh
man.
The thing is, except for Pac-Man and Mega Man, I don't remember any. The Wii U trailers were like doing CG, but for some reason, the Wii U ones don't stand out as much, even though I know there were some good ones. It's just so weird. Because Cloud was also, that's where Cloud got his trailer.
King K. Rool is still this one.
No, King K. Rool is for Ultimate. So is Banjo-Kazooie. We still got one more left. No, one more left. One more chance for a best of trailer there. Man, even like the Melee intro was so like iconic to me. Like seeing all that stuff in CG rendered, like in a like because GameCube came, like cutting edge like visuals in a Nintendo game or Nintendo console. CG videos. I've been seeing these on PlayStation for how long now, and everyone been telling me how where's those on N64. It's like now we got them. It was like such a big moment for me, like seeing that Melee intro was just so sick.
Yeah, the amount of detail that when you look back at like the models and stuff that were in the N64 game, and then you look at the trophies and the character models in GameCube, it's such a leap.
Yeah, it's like I still see it even to this day. I know it's harder to see as time goes by, but I can still remember like what I felt like seeing that for the first time. It just was so impressive.
And that was less than 2 years.
Yeah, that's just. I just don't understand how companies put out these games so quickly back then. Like we're talking about Square Enix 5.7, like they put out 7, 8, 9 in like the span of like a few years. It's like now it's game development. I understand it's a lot more difficult with HD assets and bigger environments, bigger assets to have to make. But it's just crazy to me because think back then like the technology wasn't nearly as advanced, so I feel like games are still pretty challenging to make even back then. And to put out that, I don't know. I think we were kind of like spoiled a little bit. Like remember when we used to have like N64 game droughts and stuff?
Right.
It's like,
because you say 7, 8, 9, but again, also Final Fantasy Tactics, also Cyber Frontier, also Mana Games, also Vagrant Story, also like. Them. I think they just published, but Xenogears and stuff, and just like, how?
Yeah,
Chrono Cross.
It's different. I don't know. I can't even explain that. I don't even know how many people were working at Square at that time, and did they just have a ton of people? It was just that big. I don't know, but that just seems insane to me that they had all those games coming out in that short span of time, and I don't think you'll ever see anything like that from like Square Enix.
Parasite Eve was them too, right?
Yeah. Holy a lot of games. Thank you, Blood, for going down memory lane here with me, talking about these Nintendo VHS tapes.
Because it's honestly like something I hadn't even really thought about for a long time. And then you showed me the list, and like, oh yeah, I forgot about this tape. I forgot about that tape. Yeah. Somebody had brought up the Star Fox tape a couple months ago, and that was kind of the first little thing that put the seed in my head. But
yeah. I feel like I've always talked about the Star Fox one, and then just thought the gags were like really funny at the time, and now just looking back, it's like seeing it recently. Yeah, they're super cheesy, but it's like there's still some charm to it. So I still enjoyed most of them, though some of them definitely have aged pretty poorly. But yeah, if you're in the comments and there's a VHS promo tape that's out there waiting cover, or if there is a good overview video out there from another content creator, link that in the comments. Let us know, because I'd love to check those out. I want to have a little bit more time some point this week. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions for this episode of Friend Code. If you are a $5 and up patron, you can submit questions for consideration. I'll make that post the week. Actually, now it's the week before we're recording. I've done a better job of getting these up much earlier, so you have a lot of time to get those in. So thank you to everyone that. Also, your $5, you're part of the early access tier. I apologize. This one was not coming to you as part of the early access, just because of like being on the heels of Easy Chillin'. But most episodes, do come a bit early for you. So thank you, everyone. We also got some shout outs for the month of September 2021. Got them right here. So special thanks and shout outs to Elthanis, Greg the Dark Knight Kettering, Caleb Togi Crawford, and Nick. Shout out. Thank you so much. Yeah, man, VHS tapes. Whew. What's funny is I'm glad they're all digitized on the internet and on YouTube now because I don't have a VHS player anymore, even to play any of this stuff. So
I mean, I do, but it's been so many years since I've used it that I kind of don't trust it right now. Like, I'd have to like find something that I don't care about and test it. And it's like, okay, make sure this plays. But then even so, like, well, if it breaks, does it break because of the player or does it break because it's old?
yeah.
Because I definitely have some things that I should probably digitize, but yeah.
I will say the one thing I do lament is, but these are on, archived pretty well now digitally. I still would like to go back and at least watch one of these on an actual VHS on a CRT. Because I think like it might look a little bit better than
yeah, definitely. But I think they did a good job. What I think is funny is there's one point in one of the tapes where there's kind of like a white noise, like you're getting to the end of a tape. And now that it's been digitized, then I was like, oh, that's an artificial effect that they put intentionally in there
to make you,
so that you would think it was done, and then they put the teaser after it.
Oof. Well, until next time, everybody. May the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.